Benjamin is a very particular alpha. He doesn't like omegas, he prefers betas. And I'm the omega he doesn't like but had to marry. He spends his ruts with me. I spend my heats with suppressants. The only reminder of how miserable this marriage is are the empty syringes in the trash. I woke up to the sun high in the sky and the bed beside me empty. Benjamin never lingers. He leaves as soon as he's satisfied his alpha instincts, even though I'm his legal husband. My whole body ached like it had been run over, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the ache in my heart. My name is Joseph Evans. I'm a high-quality omega, born into a declining old money family but raised in comfort. After I presented, I was sent to an incredibly expensive academy for omegas to learn how to be a perfect homemaker. Benjamin is an alpha from a prominent family. Handsome, capable, and brilliant, he was the biggest catch in DC's elite social scene. He had a lover, but it was just a beta. No one took a beta lover seriously. Every family schemed and plotted, but I was the one who won the prize in the end. Because only my pheromones were a 100% match with Benjamin's. I thought that with a pheromone match that high, he would have to fall in love with me. Alphas and omegas are supposed to be made for each other. But Benjamin hates omegas. Even after marking me, he still hates me. It's been 3 years. You'd get attached to a dog in that time. But my husband still despises me. After lying in bed in a daze for a while, I got up. Tonight was the birthday party for one of Benjamin's childhood friends. As his partner, I did as I always did. I got a gift ready, dressed appropriately, and had the driver take me there. Benjamin would never come to pick me up. We would just meet at the venue. In front of the hotel entrance, my blood ran cold when I saw the handsome beta standing next to Benjamin. The driver opened the door for me, and I already had 1 foot out. It would be too awkward and rude to pull back now. My head was buzzing. I could already imagine how the other married omegas in our circle would laugh at me. My father-in-law would frown and look at me with reproach, wondering how an omega like me could let a beta steal my husband. My parents would blame me too. 3 years of marriage, not a single child, and I couldn't even hold on to my own husband's heart. And even if I couldn't, I shouldn't be making a scene in public. What a disgrace to the Evans family. Couldn't back down. I couldn't even let myself hesitate for a second. I ignored the feeling that my heart was about to break and forced the tears back. I walked calmly up to Benjamin and greeted him. "Honey." Then I looked at the beta on Benjamin's arm, who was giving a faint smile. "Mr. Alex, it's been a while." Benjamin's cold face showed no hint of emotion upon seeing me. It was Alex who, under the watchful eyes of the crowd and my calm, smiling gaze, slowly let go of Benjamin's arm. "Mr. Evans, long time no see. I should go say hi to Mr. Davis. If you'll excuse me." Alex's smile faded as he glanced at Benjamin. His eyes were a perfect mix of reluctant submission and thoughtful concern, as if he were stepping aside to save Benjamin from an awkward situation. Benjamin's stoic expression finally cracked. He frowned slightly but didn't say anything in the end. For families like ours, appearances are everything. Would he really abandon his legal husband to attend a high society party with his lover in front of everyone? He'd have to be insane. Benjamin was insane. After Alex left, he tilted his chin at me and said, "Didn't you say you weren't feeling well? Go home and rest." My mouth fell open, but before I could say a word, he turned and walked away, leaving me alone in the hotel lobby. Everyone who passed by and witnessed it shot me furtive glances. Kicked out of a party by my own husband. I'd be the laughingstock of our circle by morning. The driver had already taken the car to the parking garage to clear the way for other vehicles, so I had to walk there myself. If I waited out front, I'd have to endure the mocking stares of everyone passing by. But the walk to the garage wasn't much better. People still glanced at me, their eyes like needles and knives. All I could do was hold my head high, put on a brave face, and keep a smile plastered on my face. I knew I looked like a clown, but other than this, I didn't know what else to do. No one ever taught me what to do if your alpha doesn't love you. Bonded alphas and omegas usually have high compatibility. Their pheromones are supposed to guarantee they'll fall in love. But my husband, He didn't seem to be controlled by his pheromones at all. When the driver saw me, he was surprised but didn't ask any questions. His gaze shifted to one of pity. He had clearly guessed what happened. I kept my face stiff. "Home, Lynn," I told him. Halfway there, my phone suddenly rang. It was like a sound from a horror movie, sending a shiver through me and filling me with a sense of dread. My hands were trembling as I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. The caller ID read, "Father-in-law." I answered, and a cool voice on the other end said just one thing: "Come to the main house." In that moment, a wave of emotions washed over me. I couldn't tell if it was humiliation or fear that was stronger. Lynn, to the main house. My father-in-law, Benjamin's Omega father, isn't in the best of health. Benjamin's Alpha father died young, leaving him as the only elder, and Benjamin respects him deeply. I'd heard from my parents that Benjamin's Alpha father was a notorious philanderer. He had flings left and right, but never had any children outside the marriage, which shows you just how capable my father-in-law is. As soon as we arrived, I got out and headed inside. Even though I was terrified, I didn't dare to delay for a second. To be fair, my father-in-law isn't a cruel person. He's always very calm. But when he looks at me with those almond-shaped eyes, the same ones Benjamin has, I feel more scared than when I'm facing Benjamin himself. I stood before Mr. Croft as he sat looking at me. His tone was slow and deliberate. "Joseph, you and Benjamin have been married for 3 years now, haven't you?" I nodded cautiously. Mr. Croft continued, 3 years. "Every quarter, I have your and Benjamin's pheromone compatibility tested. If it weren't 100% every single time, I'd truly start to doubt it. How could two people with such a high match end up like this? Have a child. An alpha will settle down once he has a child. With a child, the bond between our families will finally be secure." I nodded, but I wasn't allowed to go home. I was to go kneel in the family chapel. This was the punishment for an Omega husband who couldn't hold on to his alpha and brought shame to the Croft family. The Croft family chapel was dark, lit only by the faint, flickering flames of eternal candles, which only made it feel more sinister. I knelt on a cushion, and it didn't take long for my knees to start aching. But I didn't dare move. I had no idea if someone was watching me from the shadows. When I got home the next day, Benjamin still wasn't back. I ate breakfast alone, mulling over my father-in-law's words. He's been through it all. What he said must have some truth to it. After breakfast, I picked up my phone. As expected, a news alert popped up. Award-winning actor Alex and billionaire CEO spotted leaving hotel together after a night of passion. The comments section was a war zone. "Alex is so shameless. A homewrecker." Our Alex said he and Mr. Croft are just good friends. "Tabloids need to die. They have so much chemistry. I ship it." Wait, isn't Mr. Croft married? Where's his husband? I've never seen him. Every time he's photographed, it's with Alex. You don't know? Mr. Croft is in an arranged marriage. Alex is his true love. That's pretty normal for the super rich, right? A homewrecker is a homewrecker. Stop trying to make it sound so noble. Ha! It's only cheating if you're loved. It's only cheating if you're loved. That last comment stung my eyes. I slammed my phone screen off and gripped it tightly. I knew from the start that Benjamin had a beta lover. But when the Crofts came to my family to discuss the marriage, Mr. Croft told us Benjamin was just playing around with the beta, that it wasn't serious. Besides, Benjamin's pheromone imbalance was getting severe, and he needed an Omega. I loved Benjamin. I had loved him for a long time. So when I heard about his pheromone sickness, I was frantic. I wanted to heal him. If only I had looked into the situation more carefully back then. But there are no do-overs. Now, there's no turning back for me. I have to win Benjamin's heart. And not just for the sake of my own love. Benjamin and I always used protection. I couldn't believe he had the self-control to use protection every single time with an Omega whose pheromones were a 100% match. With that kind of willpower, it's no wonder he's successful at everything he does. We weren't even intimate that often. He only came to me when his pheromone imbalance flared up. The rest of the time, he was probably in Alex's bed. Every day, I told myself not to panic. Even when my anxiety was so bad I couldn't sit still, My chest felt tight, and my head would spin. I didn't dare take any anti-anxiety medication because it would be bad for a baby. Finally, the opportunity one was waiting for arrived, an alpha's rut. If Benjamin's self-control was normally at 100 during his rut, it would drop to 10. That day, Benjamin burst into my room, agitated and reeking of pheromones that smelled like strong liquor. I knew my moment had come. I succeeded. After 3 years of marriage, I was finally fully bonded by my own husband. It was the first time I ever woke up to find Benjamin still there. Even though his face was dark as a storm cloud, I gave him a sweet smile and whispered softly, "Honey." A storm was brewing in Benjamin's eyes. He sat up in bed and said coldly, "Joseph, do you really think this is amusing?" My eyes instantly turned red. Benjamin rarely spoke to me in that tone, mainly because he rarely spoke to me at all. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably as I choked out, "We've been married for 3 years. I'm your husband. Aren't you supposed to bond with me?" Benjamin watched me cry in agony with cold indifference, leaving me with a single word: "Slut." Then he slammed the door and was gone, not even willing to spare me another sentence. For the next few days, the news was filled with stories of the Croft Corporation CEO and the award-winning actor Alex appearing everywhere together. I chewed my nails while I read the articles, a negative pregnancy test on the table in front of me. This went on for 2 months, and I finally had to accept that I still hadn't conceived Benjamin's child. Then my brother botched another major project at home. My mother called me, crying and begging me to ask Benjamin to help our family. "Things are really difficult right now. Please ask Mr. Croft to help us. You know your brother is capable, he just needs a chance. If we can win this contract, our family can get back on its feet. Your brother won't be so self-destructive, wasting his days in bars. Joseph, your brother doted on you when you were little. Remember when you climbed that tree and were too scared to come down? He was the one who got a ladder to carry you down, and he fell and hurt himself. He still has the scar on his arm." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. My eyes felt vacant, my heart empty, yet filled with a bitter sorrow. I didn't know how to explain to my mother that I couldn't even get a meeting with Benjamin, let alone influence his business decisions. My brother was always good to me, it's true, but he just wasn't cut out for business. The family still had some savings, but my brother had burned through so much money over the years with one failed project after another. I looked at the alligator skin bag in my mother's hands. It was last year's model. The family must really be out of money. She noticed my gaze and clutched the bag, a flicker of embarrassment on her face. She had spent half her life as a high society wife, always having the best and most expensive things. Now she was here, humbling herself to beg me. I closed my eyes. "I'll do my best, Mom." The elevator climbed, and I watched the floor numbers change, my heart pounding. In my pocket was the key card to the penthouse suite. I had arranged a meeting with Benjamin at the hotel, using Alex's phone to set it up. Today was the first day of my heat. Before leaving, I gave myself half a dose of suppressants. I didn't dare use more, afraid my pheromones wouldn't be strong enough to make Benjamin lose control. I was terrified of something going wrong on the way. An omega in heat walking around outside is like an open invitation to any alpha. But Benjamin never touched me during my heats. For all 3 years of our marriage, I'd spent every single one with suppressants. Thankfully, everything went smoother than I could have imagined. The penthouse suite took up the entire top floor. Benjamin was already there when I arrived. The moment I stepped inside, I let my pheromones flood the room. The entire suite was instantly enveloped in the scent of ripe peaches. Benjamin's face was a mask of fury. But no alpha can resist an omega he's already bonded with, one with a 100% pheromone match. I succeeded in getting pregnant with Benjamin's child. The chances of conception during an omega's heat are incredibly high. Nothing else mattered, even if Benjamin ended up hating me for it. Without an alpha's comforting pheromones, the morning sickness was severe. My belly grew day by day, but I became thinner and thinner. I still saw news about Alex and Benjamin on my phone, and it still hurt. But now I had something more important to focus on. I had to give birth to this child, mine and Benjamin's. Then, one day during my 7th month, my father-in-law suddenly showed up and took me to the main house. "Phone radiation is bad for the baby," he said, taking my phone away. The TV was restricted to certain channels. I grew suspicious and immediately asked to call my family. Had they gone bankrupt? My father-in-law didn't stop me. I spoke with my mother, and she was very concerned about the baby. She sounded normal, even mentioning a get-together with friends the day before. If my family was fine, then what was wrong? 3 days later, I found out why my father-in-law was isolating me from the outside world. While he was out at a social event, a pale-faced Alex showed up at the Croft estate. He was with Benjamin's assistant, so he walked right in and stood before me. He was talking, but I just watched his mouth move, a bottomless panic rising in my heart. My mind went blank for a second, and then the world started to spin. A sharp pain shot through my stomach. Sir has fainted. Call a doctor. Quick! He's bleeding." Alex had told me he'd presented again. He had presented as an Omega. The only reason I had been able to marry into the Croft family was because I was an Omega with a high pheromone match. Now, my only advantage was gone. Benjamin loved Alex so much. What would happen to my child now? I was rushed to the hospital. In a daze, I heard a doctor say I was losing too much blood, that it wasn't normal. By the time Benjamin rushed back to the country on his private jet and got to the hospital, the baby had already been born via C-section. He was premature, his cries barely a whisper. "Where's Joseph?" he asked his father. Mr. Croft looked at his son's haggard face and said calmly, "The Evans family took his body home." Benjamin didn't seem to process it. He stared blankly and repeated, "What? Where's Joseph?" Mr. Croft said, "He died from complications during childbirth. Massive blood loss. The Evans family took him. We were in the wrong on this, so I couldn't stop them from taking his body." Benjamin's eyes instantly turned red, though he didn't seem to realize it. He pressed his lips together, said nothing, and turned to leave. Mr. Croft called after his retreating back, "You didn't even like him, did you? Are you going to go perform for your in-laws? But I'm telling you right now, I blame Alex for upsetting him to death. I will not allow Alex to marry into this family." Benjamin didn't stop. He went straight to the Evans house. He was no longer greeted by their fawning smiles. Joseph's older brother, Leo, punched him so hard he stumbled back 2 steps before catching his balance. "You bastard!" Leo roared. "We entrusted Joseph to you, and this is how you treated him." He was only 24. Joseph's mother couldn't stop her son. She sat on the sofa, sobbing, her eyes swollen and red, her gasps for air so ragged it seemed she couldn't breathe. Benjamin's blood ran cold. Seeing his mother-in-law's cold face didn't convince him Joseph was dead. Leo's rage wasn't enough to change his mind either. But Mrs. Evans's grief was too profound. In that moment, he knew Joseph was really dead. He died in childbirth, died bearing him a son. Where is Joseph now? He couldn't bring himself to say the word body. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with the back of his hand, where he'd bitten the inside of his cheek, and didn't hold the punch against Leo. Leo let out a cold, mocking laugh, his bloodshot eyes fixed on Benjamin with pure hatred. "Joseph doesn't want to see you again. Get out of our house. You are not welcome at his funeral. He doesn't want to see you in the next life either." Just then, Mrs. Evans took 2 deep breaths to compose herself and said to Benjamin, "Benjamin, you should go. Joseph doesn't want to see you again. And you don't need to come to the funeral." That was his final wish. The cold mask on Benjamin's face seemed to freeze solid. Mrs. Evans stood up with the help of a maid and whispered something to her. The maid quickly brought a cardboard box down from upstairs. Mrs. Evans gently stroked a notebook inside the box and said to Benjamin, "Benjamin, I don't know why things turned out this way. Joseph loved you so much, and your compatibility was so high, but there's no point in saying any of this now. These were Joseph's things. I took the liberty of giving them to you as something to remember him by." Benjamin took the box and went home. The house was still brightly lit. He changed his shoes and went to the master bedroom, his room, which felt vast and empty. Benjamin sat on the carpet and stared at the box. Ever since he heard the news of Joseph's death, the gland on the back of his neck had begun to swell, throbbing with an unusual restlessness. He had a premonition. This was a Pandora's box. Opening it might bring him pain, regret. He stared at the box for a long time before finally reaching out to open it. Inside were a few notebooks, 2 of his old test papers, a few pens, and a pair of headphones. The pens and headphones were nothing special, but the test papers were his. Class 1-1, Benjamin Croft. The sharp handwriting in the name field seemed to slice through the persistent fog in his mind, revealing a corner of the truth. Benjamin's fingers touched one of the notebooks and flinched as if burned, but a second later, he firmly picked it up and began to read. The weather's great today, but the gym teacher is sick. So boring. That jerk from the class next door tried to start something again today. I knocked him flat with one punch. So satisfying. Mom told me I need to be more well-behaved. No way. I'm gonna be an alpha when I grow up, and being wild is what real alphas are all about. Almost got kidnapped this morning. Luckily, a senior saved me. He was so handsome. But if I almost got kidnapped, shouldn't he have walked me home? Why did he just drop me at my classroom door and tell me to focus on my classes? So frustrating. I got the scoop on the senior. He's first in our year, student council president. OMG, even his ID photo is hot. So hot my head is spinning. Turns out my head was spinning because I'm about to present. Will I be an alpha? Nope. I presented as an omega. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Today I was sitting with my legs crossed and Mom told me to be more ladylike. Ugh. Even if I'm an omega, I'm not changing my wild side. Back at school. First day, and I saw the senior giving a speech under the flag. OMG, even the sunlight loves him. Is my presentation period not over yet? My heart's beating so fast, I think I'm gonna die. Actually, presenting as an omega isn't so bad. I walked past the senior today and smelled his pheromones. They smell so good. But my desk mate, who's an alpha, said it felt like he got punched by pheromones. Turns out the senior was in his rut yesterday. No wonder I didn't see him in the afternoon. My desk mate said ruts are awful for alphas, turns them into antisocial freaks. Hope the senior isn't suffering too much. I'll go vegetarian during his rut as a sacrifice. Crap. My brother found out I have a crush on the senior. That jerk. He said a guy as amazing as him will end up with a graceful, elegant, and gentle omega. A tomboy like me doesn't stand a chance. So happy today someone finally figured out what brand of pens the senior uses. A little pricey, but I immediately bought 100 of them. He must be so stressed with graduation coming up. The senior had dark circles under his eyes today. He's already so brilliant, but he still works so hard. I need to be more like him. It's harder to get news about the senior now that he's graduated. The school forum is dead. I can't get into his company's internal network. I hate it. I transferred to an Omega Academy. My brother doesn't get it. Mom didn't really say anything. The classes at the Omega Academy are so boring, but my grades are great. Half the guys in my class have a crush on Benjamin Croft, which is ridiculous. Bunch of losers. I'm going to graduate at the top of my class because he deserves the best. Benjamin is dating a beta actor. My youth is officially over. The internet says they had a fight. I'm actually happy about it. Oh God, am I turning into one of those evil villain omegas from a novel? Cried my eyes out. Yesterday was my 20th birthday. Today's headline: award-winning actor and Croft CEO meet at hotel on night of triumph. A double victory for love and career. I've decided to stop loving Benjamin Croft. Goodbye. The diary entries stopped on the 3rd day after Joseph's birthday, with his declaration to give up on his years-long crush. Benjamin stared blankly at the last line. He was 5 years older than Joseph. When Joseph was 20, he was 25. That was when his pheromone sickness had become severe enough to affect his daily life, and his father, unable to watch any longer, began selecting omegas for him. That was when Joseph appeared in his life. Joseph's birthday was in May, their first meeting was in August. Back then, Joseph wasn't as rigid as he became after the marriage. His perfectly sculpted smile still had a hint of shyness. Everyone told him that Joseph was deeply in love with him, that their 100% match made them a perfect pair. But he just saw Joseph as another fool trapped by pheromones. Pheromones control the bodies and even the minds of alphas and omegas. This kind of love is just an illusion created by the glands deceiving the brain. He had never truly believed Joseph loved him, but reality had just slapped him hard across the face. Benjamin suddenly clapped a hand to the gland on his neck. Felt like it was being burned, the pain unbearable. Sharp, stabbing sensations shot from his nerves, forcing him to curl into a ball. In a haze, Joseph's face kept flashing before his eyes. The vibrant, lively Joseph from the beginning, and then the Joseph after their marriage, whose innocent eyes slowly clouded over, whose smile became more and more mechanical and stiff. He saw again his alpha father who constantly cheated and his omega father. The alpha's betrayals broke the omega's heart, turning his once warm, floral scent into something cold and bitter. But whenever the alpha came home and placated him, soothing him with pheromones, the omega would be deceived by them once more and forgive the alpha again. Day after day until the alpha died. Without the comfort of pheromones, the omega finally woke up completely. From a young age, Benjamin knew that pheromones weren't destiny, but a mind-altering poison. Once you touched it, accepted it, you were doomed for life. That's why he sought out a beta. Betas were completely free from the control of pheromones. They had no pheromones to bewitch others. They were always rational. The phone rang, its shrill sound echoing in the silent room. Just before it went to voicemail, Benjamin answered. His assistant's voice came through the line. Mr. Croft, Alex is here. He's looking for you. Because of his sudden presentation, his pheromones are very unstable right now. I know. Benjamin cut him off and hung up. He carefully put the notebooks away and placed the cardboard box on the top shelf of the living room display case. That case held all his most important trophies and the models he'd loved most as a child. Now, the box had replaced the trophies on the highest shelf. It was the most precious gift he had ever received in his 30 years, a sincere love that he had destroyed. Only after setting the box down did he go downstairs. In the living room, Alex sat on the sofa with a cup of tea in front of him. His assistant, Mark, stood ramrod straight behind him. Mark, do you still remember who you work for? Benjamin glanced at the two of them before looking away and sitting in the main armchair. Mark's face paled, but Alex spoke before he could, his expression pale and pitiful.
I'm sorry, Benjamin.
I know you're angry with me. It's all my fault. I never should have gone to see Joseph. It's all my fault. I've been so strange since I presented. I just wanted to make sure he didn't misunderstand. The excuse on Mark's lips turned into, Mr. Croft, I'm sorry, but this isn't Alex's fault. He just presented he's in a lot of pain. The doctor said he needs an alpha's pheromones to soothe him. That was right. Alex had suddenly presented as an omega, a late-life secondary presentation, a 1 in a million chance, and he had been lucky enough to get it. The outside world was saying Mr. Croft had hit the jackpot. His unloved husband was dead but had left him a child, and his true love had even presented as an omega. 3 strokes of good fortune all at once. Benjamin looked at the lover he'd been with for over 4 years as if seeing him for the first time, studying him carefully. The old tolerance and indulgence were gone from his eyes, replaced by the look he gave a formidable opponent at the negotiating table. After a long silence, he finally spoke, his question cutting straight to the point. Alex, did you really only present recently? Alex's pale, pitiful expression froze for a second, but then his eyes filled with hurt. Benjamin, he said, his voice choked with tears. What are you trying to say? Benjamin suddenly felt exhausted, a weariness he had never known washing over him. He waved a hand at the servants. Get them out of here. Mr. Croft. Benjamin, what's wrong? Did someone say something to you? You have to believe me. Before the security guards dragged them out, Benjamin said coldly, for agitating my 7 months pregnant husband and causing his premature birth and death, I will be pursuing criminal charges against you both to the fullest extent of the law. After a flurry of noise, the house fell silent again, a dead-like quiet. The pheromones of the house's other master were gradually fading with his absence. Benjamin leaned back against the sofa, covering his eyes with his forearm and letting out a self-deprecating laugh. He used to think Joseph was a fool, controlled by pheromones, used by his family, even emotionally manipulated by his father. He had watched it all from his high horse with cold detachment. But it turned out he was the biggest fool of all. After Joseph's death, he had his people investigate thoroughly. Turned out Alex had never been a beta. He was an omega when they first met. He had only been injecting illegal suppressants to make Benjamin think he was a beta because he knew Benjamin disliked omegas. The rational relationship he thought he had was a calculated scheme from the very beginning. And the person he thought was controlled by pheromones had offered him a sincere heart, only to be tossed aside like trash. If he hadn't been so arrogant, if he had taken Joseph seriously instead of treating their marriage as a simple exchange of resources from the start, if he had just been a little more patient with Joseph, Joseph could have been happy. He could have lived a long, full life. I steered the boat toward the harbor. It was just a small yacht for sea fishing, only meant to cruise within 3 miles of the coastline. Today I'd caught a bucket of squid. It was peak squid season, and the large fishing boats coming and going were all overflowing with their hauls. My small boat docked, sandwiched between 2 large vessels. I carried my bucket ashore. Tonight's menu was grilled squid, fried squid, and squid salad. That's life by the sea for you. What you eat depends on what you catch. As soon as I got on land, I saw a group of kids in little red hats chattering by the shore. A fisherman greeted me and, seeing my confusion, explained they were a school group on a field trip. I looked at the group of kids, who barely came up to my waist, and wondered what children that small could possibly be studying. Just rich people burning money. I paid them no mind and started walking home, which meant I had to pass the swarm of prehistoric beasts. Their chirping filled the air. It stinks here. Teacher, I don't want to be here. I want to go home. Whoa, that crab is huge. It's bigger than my face. Teacher, I have to pee. Wah. Ah. A crab pinched me. That last shout made me jump. I turned my head and saw the kid who claimed to be pinched standing a good 6 feet away from the bucket of crabs, holding up his perfectly intact finger for the teacher to inspect. Whatever. The kid was kindergarten-aged, probably in that phase where his spatial awareness was all messed up. He probably thought the crab 6 feet away had actually gotten him. I was about to look away when my gaze swept over the kid's face. The next second, I froze. That face, I looked again. It was so familiar. A face I had secretly watched countless times during my teenage years. Back then, it was mostly filled with a casual laziness. Later, it became as cold as ice. It was a miniature Benjamin. I was a bit dazed. The child, however, was surprisingly sharp. He suddenly turned and looked at me, his eyes widening. A bad feeling washed over me. I immediately turned to leave, but the kid suddenly shouted, "Dad!" I froze, my mind a complete mess. But the child was already running toward me, shouting as he went. He was really calling me. He recognized me. How was that possible? Dad! Before my jumbled brain could make sense of anything, the boy had reached me and thrown his arms around my leg, still shouting. Dad! You really were in a faraway place. Father didn't lie to me. My heart skipped a beat, and my whole body went rigid. I wanted to run, but I was afraid I'd make the little boy clinging to me fall. Finally, I managed a weak smile and said in a hoarse voice, "I'm not your dad." The boy blinked, a hint of confusion in his eyes. He pulled a necklace out from under his shirt. It was an old-fashioned locket. He opened it to reveal a tiny photograph inside. He tried to hold the photo up for me to see, but he was too short. Dad, it's me, Luke. I saw the photo and was speechless. I couldn't for the life of me figure out why Benjamin would let his son wear a picture of me. The teacher in charge noticed the stray child and hurried over. Seeing the boy calling me Dad, she had a look of dawning comprehension mixed with confusion. Are you Luke's father? What are you doing here? I thought the teacher would mistake me for a kidnapper, but her question threw me for a loop. 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind. I was exposed. I had deceived Benjamin. It was true that I had complications and hemorrhage during childbirth, but I didn't die. Going back a bit further, after I confirmed I was pregnant, I made a deal with my father-in-law. I would give birth to Benjamin's child and would never bother Benjamin again. In exchange, he would give the Evans family a sum of money large enough to ensure my mother could live comfortably for the rest of her life. As for my brother, as long as he stopped trying to start businesses, the company would survive this crisis, and after selling off some shares, the remaining dividends would be more than enough for him to live a life of leisure. I had used my own body as a bargaining chip. It was the only thing I had to offer. Fortunately, after weighing his options, my father-in-law agreed. A child born to a highly compatible alpha and omega couple was very likely to be a high-quality alpha or omega. I had sold my own child long ago. I was not a good father. From the moment he was born, this child no longer belonged to me. I pushed down the sour feeling in my heart. There was a more urgent situation at hand. Benjamin was such a proud man. If he found out I had tricked him, I couldn't imagine the consequences. I had to slip away before he came looking for me. First, I had to handle the teacher and the child. I put on a standard high society omega smile and said to the teacher in a soft, gentle voice, "Hello, Luke's teacher. I'm Luke's dad. I haven't been well, so I've been resting by the sea." His father didn't tell me Luke's field trip was here. I wonder if he was trying to surprise me. Even though I was wearing a t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops, my skin sunburned and red, not at all presentable and nothing like the child's elite father. The standard smile on my face must have felt familiar to the teacher. Rich people did all sorts of strange things. She probably thought I was just experiencing life. After all, the biggest piece of evidence was clinging tightly to my leg. I looked down at the child wrapped around my thigh. I wanted to reach out and pat his head, but remembered my hands reeked of fish. My hand paused. In the end, I just gently touched his cheek with the back of my hand and coaxed him softly. "Luke, you're still on your field trip. Go back to your group with the teacher." The teacher chimed in, trying to persuade him too. If the boy would just go back to his group, I could leave. I could run away immediately. I didn't know where I'd go, but I felt an urgent need to get away. It was a good plan, but the child was not cooperating. He refused to let go of my leg, remaining steadfast no matter how we coaxed, bribed, or scolded him. My heart sank. Crap. This kid was just like me when I was little, a stubborn mule. In the end, I had no choice but to talk to the teacher and take him back to my place. "Don't bother telling my husband. I'm going to yell at him myself," I told the teacher, my tone a mix of an omega's playful willfulness and charm. The teacher smiled and nodded. Of course, their school wouldn't just hand a child over to a stranger. But my photo was hanging around the kid's neck, and the kid was hanging on to me. It seemed they didn't know that the child's father was, in name, dead from childbirth. It was a perfect, albeit disastrous, mix-up. I had to take the boy home because the teacher couldn't handle him at all, and it looked like she was about to call his father. I couldn't let them contact Benjamin. Once home, I secretly called my father-in-law. He was surprised to hear from me. It was the first time I had called him in 5 years. After I explained what happened, he promised not to tell Benjamin and said he would send someone to pick up the child. I breathed a sigh of relief. My plans for grilled, fried, and marinated squid were ruined. Instead, dinner was the healthiest possible option. Plain boiled squid over rice. "Dad, MHM, Dad, MHM." While I was cooking, the boy kept circling my feet. I was terrified I'd trip over him, but I couldn't bring myself to scold him. I already owed him so much. All I could do was be extra careful. "Dad, Father said you went to a very, very far away place." "So it was the seaside." "The teacher says the seaside is the end of the land, so it really is far away." The boy, he said his name was Luke Croft, babbled on and on as he closed his eyes and enjoyed me washing his hair. "Father said you're not well. Are you feeling better now? When Luke gets sick, he just gets a shot and he's all better. Luke isn't scared of shots at all." MHM. Really? I listened to him seriously, not quite believing he wasn't afraid of shots. I was terrified of them as a child. My mom said that every time I got one, my crying could be heard throughout the entire building. Sure enough, when he heard my question, Luke fidgeted with his fingers, his voice getting smaller, but he still insisted. "Really? Little liar. I smiled but didn't call him out on it. Kids have their pride too. At bedtime, I found a story on my phone to read to him. I didn't have any picture books in the house. I had long since outgrown fairy tales. Luke had been in a state of high excitement all evening. Now, being soothed, he quickly fell asleep. After he was asleep, I just stared at his face, unable to fall asleep myself. I had been alone for so long. All that love and hate felt like it belonged to a past life. Faking my death was something my father-in-law and I had agreed on. That way, the child born would have no father. Benjamin could make anyone his father, including Alex, who had stood before me and claimed he'd presented as an Omega, begging me to let Benjamin go. But for some reason, Alex and Benjamin never got together. I was secretly relieved. Alex seemed like he'd be a terrible step-parent. I also didn't know if Benjamin would be good to the child. But whether Benjamin was good to him or not, I had no right to say anything. The worst person to the child was me. Luke seemed to be doing very well now. Only a tolerant and loving environment could raise such a bold and willful child. That was good. The next morning, I was nudged awake. A giant caterpillar was attacking me. I opened my eyes to see Luke with his head buried in my neck, his little nose twitching. For a second, I almost saw a vision of Benjamin sniffing my pheromones. But the next moment, a wave of sadness washed over me. A child of an alpha and omega should grow up soothed by their parents' pheromones. Even children who hadn't yet presented could sense them. It was their instinct. Without their parents' pheromones, children could easily become fussy and irritable. Thinking of this, the guilt in my heart deepened. I voluntarily released my pheromones, and Luke immediately kicked his legs in delight, giggling foolishly. I played with him in bed for a while before getting up to make breakfast. I opened the curtains and suddenly saw a long, black Bentley parked outside my door. The windows were tinted so I couldn't see inside. The smile on my face faded. My father-in-law must have sent someone to pick up Luke. That was for the best. Once Luke was gone, I would have to leave too. Ignoring the unwelcome pangs of loss and bitterness, I got Luke dressed. He had slept in my t-shirt, and I had washed his clothes last night. It was a hot summer, and they had dried overnight. I took Luke's hand and led him out to the car, but the door didn't open. A bodyguard standing by the car handed me a phone. I was confused and tightened my grip on Luke's hand. I took the phone. The person on the other end didn't speak right away. I said, "Mr. Croft?" Benjamin's father's last name was Croft. After a 2-second pause, a voice came through, "Joseph Evans." The moment I heard that voice, I felt like I had been plunged into freezing water, cold from head to toe. It was Benjamin. It was Benjamin on the phone. How did he know? How could he possibly know? The person on the other end seemed to know I was frozen and continued. "After all these years, you haven't learned a thing. You still trust my father." Benjamin's tone held a hint of exasperation, as if disappointed in my naivety. Yet he didn't sound angry. I collected myself and tried to speak twice before a normal-sounding voice came out. "What do you mean?" Benjamin's unhurried voice came through the phone. "My father called me the second he hung up with you yesterday. And 6 years ago, do you know why it was so easy for you to go to that hotel alone during your heat? Because he had already cleared every obstacle from your path. Every step you took was exactly what he wanted." My eyes widened as he spoke. So that was it. No wonder. After a few seconds of silence, I asked, "Why are you telling me this?" "I deceived you too." The other end was silent for a couple of seconds before he said, "Don't ever trust him again." Then he dropped another bomb. "I'm in the car." It took my brain a moment to process what that meant. He was in the car. I jumped back several steps, pulling Luke, who I was still holding on to, back with me. "I can't get out of the car right now. If you don't want to raise Luke, leave him here and go back inside. If you want to spend some time with him, keep him. I'll arrange for his leave from kindergarten." "Why?" I asked. "Why would you trust me to leave Luke here? Why aren't you holding my deception against me? Why are you so calm about all this?" After a moment of silence, Benjamin answered, "You're his father. You have the right to raise him. If you want, and if Luke doesn't object, he can take the Evans name." His words stunned me. I stared at the car window, then looked down at Luke. If Luke changed his last name, Mr. Croft would lose his mind. He had paid me such a large sum for a child with the Croft name. It took me a long time to come back to my senses. I looked down at Luke, who was clinging to my hand, hung up the phone, and decided not to keep him after all. There was no point. I wasn't a good father. The deeper Luke's feelings for me grew, the more hurt he would be when he eventually learned the truth. Go on, your father is in the car. I let go of Luke's hand and prompted him to go. But Luke didn't let go of mine. He didn't know what Benjamin had said on the phone, he just held my hand tightly and looked up at me. I want to be with you, Dad. Father can just get out of the car too. I forced a smile. Dad needs to rest and get better. You and your father should go home first. Children forget easily. As long as no one mentioned me, he would forget me soon enough. There was no need to be sad. Then I'll stay and help you get better, Dad, Luke said earnestly. I knelt down and stroked his head. Dad is already sick. If Luke stays, Dad will have to take care of you, and then I won't be able to rest properly. Luke's lip quivered. The guilt in my heart intensified, and I despised myself. I was emotionally blackmailing a child. Luke was well-raised and a kind boy. Hearing this, he reluctantly, slowly let go of my hand. I breathed a sigh of relief and turned to go back inside. I closed the door and, through a crack in the curtains, watched the Bentley drive away. I felt a little empty inside, but mostly, I was just bewildered. Was that it? Was my lie just forgiven? The Benjamin from today sounded so different from the man I was married to for 3 years. He wasn't so cold. His calm, detached tone was more like the senior I once knew. I suppose it made sense. With me gone, he could finally live the life he wanted, free from the shackles of marriage. He had a child, so Mr. Croft wouldn't pressure him anymore. My life returned to its peaceful rhythm after this small interruption. Out on the boat from dawn till dusk, fishing. But another phone call shattered that peace. I glanced at the number. It was Mr. Croft. Benjamin's words, "Don't ever trust him again," echoed in my ears. I hesitated for a moment but answered the call. Mr. Croft. Joseph, I want to discuss a business proposition with you. Mr. Croft skipped the pleasantries and got straight to the point. He said, Benjamin is sick. He needs your pheromones. As long as you can provide a steady supply, I will consider any request you have. I didn't answer. Mr. Croft continued, trying to persuade me, Joseph, I know Benjamin hurt you, but his condition is very bad right now. Mr. Croft, I interrupted him. When my condition was very bad, Benjamin didn't care about me either, and our deal ended the moment I left. I don't need anything now, and I will not be providing my pheromones. Selling my body as a commodity once was more than enough for me. It took me 5 years to recover from giving birth to Luke, and I still wasn't fully healed. Now he wanted me to provide pheromones for Benjamin? Impossible. My hand holding the phone tightened uncontrollably. My voice turned cold. Mr. Croft, it shouldn't be hard for Mr. Benjamin Croft to find another Omega with a high compatibility match. Should it? Since he doesn't want to find one, and would rather endure the torment of his pheromones, then I respect his choice. When I was 20, I couldn't see clearly, but now I was almost 30. I had long since learned the hard way to let go of the need to save people and to respect their choices. My calm demeanor didn't mean I had completely forgiven and forgotten. It was just pointless. Living in resentment would only make me miserable. But I knew in my heart that I hated Benjamin. Of all the people in this whole mess, I hated him the most. Mr. Croft seemed surprised by my decision and tried to persuade me further, but I made an excuse and hung up. I used to be so happy. Before I married Benjamin, I was the youngest child in my family, and my mother and brother doted on me. But after marrying Benjamin, everything seemed to change. I had married the person I loved most, but love itself seemed to drift further and further away. That's why I chose to fake my death instead of getting a divorce. I needed to escape Benjamin, the Croft family, and even the Evans family. All of them had abandoned me, and I didn't want any of them. Except for Luke. I had done right by everyone except for him. I refused Mr. Croft, but I didn't expect that just after a typhoon passed, that long Bentley would appear outside my house again. Another car pulled up, and a small torpedo shot out and charged toward me. Dad! It was Luke, running toward me with a little sunflower backpack, throwing his arms around my leg. I restrained myself from hugging him back. I knocked on the Bentley's window and asked over the phone, "Why did you bring him here again?" He said he missed you. Benjamin's voice was as placid as ever. I looked down at Luke's innocent, childish face and steeled myself. Take him back. Don't come here again. Before the person on the other end could say anything, Luke, who was still hugging my leg, started bawling. Wah, Dad, don't you want Luke anymore? A nonchalant voice came from the phone. See, he's crying. I gritted my teeth. Benjamin. Yes, I'm here. I never knew Benjamin could be so infuriating. I closed my eyes and regained my composure. Did you know Mr. Croft called me 2 days ago? He said you have a problem with your glands and need my pheromones. Is that why you brought Luke here? No, he denied quickly. Luke wouldn't stop crying at home. I had no choice. You don't have to pay any attention to my father. Like I said, you don't need to care about his opinion anymore. It's best if you don't have that in mind, I said, staring at the dark window even though I couldn't see inside. You probably don't care, but I have to say it first. Benjamin, I don't want anything more to do with you. Whether your glands are broken or rotting away, it has absolutely nothing to do with me. Now take Luke and go. We don't need to contact each other again, I said, delivering my ultimatum. Since Benjamin wasn't going to hold my deception against me, we could consider the past settled. My fear of him was also dissipating in the face of his calm demeanor. The car window in front of me suddenly rolled down. Benjamin appeared before me without warning. He looked a bit thinner, more mature and composed. But the most striking thing was he was wearing a muzzle. The cold metal was pressed tightly against his jaw, creating a powerful visual shock. My first thought was, no wonder he was the campus heartthrob from childhood to now. He was so damn handsome. But then I realized Benjamin's gland problem must be really, really bad. The moment the window opened, I felt his pheromones surge toward me uncontrollably. I choked for half a second, but the feeling quickly vanished. A vein popped on Benjamin's forehead as he seemed to be fighting for control. He asked in a hoarse voice, "You don't even want Luke?" Luke was hugging my leg, a sobbing mess, wiping tears and snot all over my pants. It was hard to say yes. In the end, Luke stayed and lived with me. Benjamin explained that he had been in a constant state of rut ever since Luke was born and had never been able to soothe him with his pheromones. So, while Luke appeared boisterous, he was actually a bit insecure. I took Luke in and started my life as a single father. Later, I met another alpha, a gentle and interesting photographer. I took Luke with him and left the small seaside town where I had lived for 6 years, and we started to drift. We saw glaciers at the North Pole and the eternal flames, the highest peaks of Tibet and the sunsets in Kashgar. The plants in the Amazon rainforest pulsed with a grotesque vitality, and when the elephant herds migrated across the African savanna, the whole earth seemed to tremble. 3 years later, due to creative differences, we parted ways. I took Luke and returned to Chicago, the city that raised me and broke my heart. After that, I dated all sorts of people, but none for very long until the 13th year of Benjamin's rut, when he and I got back together. I loved him for 12 years, and he was in a rut for 12 years. It was only fair. And he really hadn't found a partner in all those 12 years. I used to think he hated me or that he was too in love with Alex, but I later found out he just hated being controlled by pheromones. He yearned for something pure. Idiot. I was now bold enough to curse at him like that. His body was worn out from the prolonged rut, and now his eyes could no longer see color, only shades of light and dark. I only got back with you because you look like you're about to die. When you die, Luke will inherit all your money, and I'll take it and continue to live it up. I was blunt. I'd found out last year that my mother had even given him my diaries. Everything was exposed, so I had no desire to play the virtuous Omega anymore. No, what? Not all of it is going to Luke. I left half for you. When I die, you can openly take the money and go hire male models. You won't have to ask Luke for permission. I closed my eyes, suppressing the stinging feeling behind them. The bond one had washed away was now being replanted in my body. Everyone said I was pitiful, that they understood Benjamin had broken my heart after so many years of unrequited love. That's why no one thought I was going too far when I had 3 different dates in 1 week. No one knew how vile and vengeful I really was. Everyone seemed to have forgotten, even Benjamin himself, that I was the one who fell in love first. And in the end, the one who got the man he always wanted was also me.